Bigfoot is real. These 4 witnesses say yes, Bigfoot. Encounter number 1. Late night, roadside sighting in South Dakota. Case 250624001, June 2025. Meade County, South Dakota. It was around 10 p.m., just 20 minutes after sunset. A woman was driving alone from Deadwood to Rapid City when she had a chilling experience just outside Sturgis. As she cruised along the dark rural road, she suddenly spotted something massive by the roadside. A tall, dark figure standing still beside the metal barricade. The creature was covered in reddish-brown hair and stood well over 7 feet tall, easily taller than her Ford Explorer SUV. She first noticed it through the corner of her windshield, then got a better look through the passenger window. It stood upright on 2 legs, with no visible shoulders because it towered above her vehicle. It had cleared the 3-foot barricade effortlessly. Too dark to be a deer or elk, and far too fast and upright to be a bear. This was something else. Afraid to stop, she kept driving. About 2.5 miles later, she reached the next road sign and only then felt safe to breathe again. She later returned to the area in daylight to confirm what she saw, marking the height of the barricade and distance from the road. But the figure she saw that night was gone. Bigfoot encounter number 2. Gorilla-like creature crosses. Texas Road, case 231224001, December 2023, Medina County, Texas. At 9:27 a.m. on a cloudy morning, a man was driving near the town of Meco, Texas. Light rain drizzled as he drove down North Farm Road, 1283, when something shot across the road in front of him. It was huge, at least 7 feet tall, and moved like a man but had the profile of a gorilla. The creature crossed 2 lanes of road in just a second, running on 2 legs with shocking speed. After the encounter, the witness returned to the site and found 2 massive footprints, 18 inches long, embedded in wet clay and caliche mud. The toes were clearly visible, and the depth of the prints was about an inch deep. The space between each step, over 6 feet apart. Nearby fences stood over 4.5 feet tall, yet there were no signs of damage, suggesting the creature had vaulted over them with ease. There were no sounds. The witness had his windows up and music playing, but what he saw was burned into his memory. Bigfoot encounter number 3. A terrifying night in the North Carolina mountains. Case 231030002, October 2023, McDowell County, North Carolina. 3 friends were camping by the North Toe River near Spruce Pine. It was a quiet, clear October night under the full moon, until it wasn't. Around 11 p.m., one of the campers woke to a series of loud crashing noises, each 10 to 15 seconds apart. Then, footsteps outside the tent. Suddenly, a low voice whispered, "Do you have a flashlight?" Startled, the camper realized it was his friend from the hammock near the river. They stepped outside, and that's when they saw it. A massive rock flew from the woods and splashed violently into the river, just 20 feet away. They shined the flashlight across the steep, rocky terrain, but saw nothing. Yet something powerful was hurling boulders in their direction. The next morning, one camper climbed across the river to investigate. The terrain was brutal, sheer rock walls and dense vegetation, but he tried throwing rocks himself. None made it to the river. Only a much smaller stone landed with a splash, and even that couldn't match the sound they'd heard the night before. They also found what looked like a partial 6-inch wide footprint in the leaves, but no full prints due to thick forest debris. The skeptic among them came away convinced. Whatever threw those rocks wasn't human. Bigfoot. Encounter number 4. Valentine's Day. Sighting in Texas. Case 24021401. February 2024. Taos, Texas. At 2 p.m. on a cool February afternoon, a husband and wife were working as park hosts near Lake Buchanan in central Texas. As they cleaned a campground loop near the marshy edge of the lake, the wife suddenly stopped and said, "Oh my gosh, is that a Bigfoot?" Sure enough, across a narrow channel of water, about 150 yards away, they saw a large, upright figure walking through the swamp. It moved smoothly from left to right, covered head to toe in dark brown or black hair, with no visible clothing or features. As they talked back and forth, the creature suddenly stopped and looked directly at them. A few seconds later, it turned and walked off into the tall grass and brush toward the hills. They tried to record it, but the phone camera quality wasn't great. Still, the video captured something. They also mentioned hearing strange noises around their trailer in previous weeks, thumping sounds, something trying to open their storage bays, but nothing ever showed up when they went outside to check.
In the dark forests and eerie waters of the Pacific Northwest, tales of Bigfoot and other cryptic creatures have long stirred fear and fascination. From the elusive Sasquatch to the winged Batsquatch and the serpentine Ogopogo, these stories are rooted in real encounters, passed down through generations. Here are 10 gripping first-person accounts, dramatized from reports before 1980, that plunge you into the heart of the region's most unsettling mysteries. Prepare to confront the terrors that haunt the wilds of the Northwest. My name is Fred Beck, and I'll never forget the summer of 1924. I was a prospector, one of 5 men working a claim in a narrow gorge southeast of Mount St. Helens, Washington. We'd built a rough cabin in Ape Canyon, as the locals called it, a place where the air always felt heavy, like the mountain itself was watching. The forest was dense, the kind of place where sunlight barely touched the ground, and the wind carried whispers that weren't quite human. We'd been there for weeks, panning for gold, when we started noticing things, footprints, massive ones, pressed deep into the mud near the creek. Too big for any bear, with toes that looked almost human. At night, we'd hear strange cries, high-pitched and mournful, echoing off the canyon walls. My buddy Hank swore he saw something moving in the trees one evening. A shadow taller than any man, but we laughed it off. Prospectors get jumpy in the wild, we told ourselves. Too much time alone. One afternoon, I was at the creek, sifting gravel, when I felt it, a prickle on the back of my neck, like I was being watched. I looked up, and there it was, across the water, standing half-hidden behind a cedar. It was no bear. It stood upright, maybe 8 feet tall, covered in dark matted hair that blended with the forest. Its eyes, small and glinting, locked onto mine. My heart pounded so hard I thought it had burst. I dropped my pan and stumbled back, yelling for the others. By the time they came running, it was gone, but the air stank of something foul, like wet fur and decay. That night, we barricaded the cabin door, our rifles close. Around midnight, the attack came. It started with a low thud against the walls, then another, heavier, like something massive was testing the logs. We froze, listening as the thuds grew into a barrage. Rocks slammed against the roof, shaking dirt loose. Then came the screams, shrill, guttural, not animal, not human. I peeked through a crack in the shutters and saw them. 3, maybe 4 shapes, towering and hairy, circling the cabin. One rammed the door, splintering the wood. Hank fired a shot through the gap, and a piercing howl split the night. The creatures scattered, but they didn't leave. For hours they pounded the cabin, hurling boulders that dented the walls. We took turns keeping watch, praying the logs would hold. At dawn, silence fell. We stepped outside, rifles ready, to find the ground littered with rocks and those same massive footprints circling our camp. We packed up and fled, vowing never to return. The locals in Kelso didn't believe us, called it a bear or our imaginations. But I know what I saw. Those things weren't animals. They were something else, something ancient, and they wanted us gone. I'm Roger Patterson, a rancher from Yakima, Washington, with a knack for chasing legends. In October 1967, my friend Bob Gimlin and I rode into Bluff Creek, Northern California, on horseback, cameras and gear strapped to our saddles. I'd been obsessed with Sasquatch for years, ever since reading about giant footprints in the Humboldt times. The Pacific Northwest was alive with stories. Loggers, hunters, and native tribes all swore they'd seen something in these woods. I wanted proof. We'd been riding for days, following the creek through thick redwood groves. The forest was unnaturally quiet, the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. On October 20th, we were navigating a sandy riverbank when our horses spooked, rearing and snorting. I grabbed my 16mm camera, heart racing, and that's when I saw her. Across the creek, maybe 100 feet away, was a creature. Tall, maybe 7 feet, covered in dark, shaggy fur. She walked upright, arms swinging with a strange, loping gait. Her head turned, and I swear she looked right at us, her eyes dark and knowing. I stumbled off my horse, filming as I ran closer, the camera shaking in my hands. Bob kept his rifle ready, but we didn't shoot. She didn't charge or scream. She just kept walking, glancing back once before vanishing into the trees. The air reeked of musk, like something long buried. We found her tracks, deep imprints in the sand, each one nearly 2 feet long with clear toes. I made plaster casts, my hands trembling. We didn't speak much after that, just packed up and rode out, the weight of what we'd seen sinking in. Back in Yakima, I developed the film. Those 59 seconds of footage became my life's work, and my curse. Some called it a hoax, said I'd hired a man in a suit. But I was there. I saw her move, felt her gaze. The forest hit her, but she's out there watching, waiting. My name is Thomas, a trader working the Fraser River in British Columbia. In 1898, I was invited to the Nlaka'pamux village near Lytton to barter for furs. The elders were kind but wary, their eyes always scanning the forest. One night by the fire, Chief Michel told a story that chilled me to the bone. He spoke of the hairy men, wild giants who lived in the mountains, stealing children who wandered too far. He called them Sasquatches, his voice low as if speaking their name might summon them. I laughed it off, thinking it a tale to scare kids. But the next day I set out alone to hunt near the Stein Valley. The forest was dense, the air thick with pine and damp earth. As I tracked a deer, I noticed the birds had gone silent. Then I saw it. A footprint, massive, pressed into the moss with toes too human to be a bear's. My stomach twisted. I followed the tracks, curiosity outweighing fear, until I reached a clearing. There, crouched by a stream, was a figure. It was huge, maybe 9 feet tall, covered in reddish-brown hair. It turned, and its face, half man, half ape, stared at me with eyes that burned like coals. I froze, my rifle useless in my hands. It let out a low, rumbling growl, not loud but deep enough to rattle my bones. Then it stood, towering over me, and the stench hit. Rotten meat and wet fur. I backed away, heart pounding as it watched me, unmoving. I don't know why it didn't charge. Maybe it was warning me like the chief said. I turned and ran, branches snapping behind me, though I never looked back. When I reached the village, panting and pale, the elders didn't mock me. Michel only nodded, saying I was lucky to return. I never hunted in those woods again. Then Nlaka'pamux knew the truth. Those mountains belong to the Sasquatches, and they don't take kindly to trespassers. I'm Paul Freeman, a Forest Service ranger in Oregon's Blue Mountains. Back in 1975, I was patrolling near Walla Walla, just checking trails after a storm rolled through. The woods were pretty much my second home, but that day, well, something just felt off. The air was way too still, and the usual chatter from squirrels and birds had gone silent. I was near a creek when I found them. Footprints bigger than any I'd ever seen, at least 18 inches long with dermal ridges like a human's but impossibly large. I followed them, my radio just crackling uselessly in the dead zone. The tracks led up to a ridge overlooking a valley. That's when I heard it, a deep, guttural whoop, kind of like a gorilla but way louder, echoing through the pines. I crouched behind a boulder, my heart just hammering in my chest. Then I saw it, moving through the trees below. It was massive, maybe 8 feet tall, its dark fur blending right in with the shadows. It moved with purpose, stopping to snap branches and stack them in a pile like some kind of marker. I fumbled for my camera, but honestly my hands were shaking too much to focus. Suddenly it turned, as if it somehow sensed me. Its eyes, small and dark, locked onto mine from about 100 yards away. I felt exposed like a deer in a hunter's sights. A low growl rumbled and I bolted, slipping on wet rocks as I ran back to my truck. When I returned with another ranger, the pile of branches was gone, but the tracks were still there. We cast them in plaster, but the higher-ups just dismissed it as a prank. I know what I saw. That thing wasn't human, and it wasn't an animal. It was something else, something that owns these mountains. I'm Ellen, a hiker from Portland. In July 1972, I was camping in Skookum Meadow near Mount Hood, Oregon with my brother Tom. We'd heard the Sasquatch stories, everyone in the Northwest had, but we were city kids, honestly more interested in the views than old legends. We set up camp near a creek, the forest just alive with summer sounds. That first night we heard odd noises, knocks like wood on wood coming from the trees. Tom said it was probably elk, but I wasn't so sure. The second night, things got weird. I woke to a foul smell, like rotting garbage mixed with wet dog. Our campfire was out, and the air felt heavy, almost like a storm was coming. I grabbed my flashlight and scanned the trees. That's when I saw it. A shape, tall and broad, standing just beyond the reach of my light. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the beam. I whispered to Tom, who was already awake, his hunting knife in hand. The thing didn't move, just stood there watching. Then it screamed, a sound so loud and shrill it hurt my ears. Tom grabbed me and we scrambled into the tent, zipping it shut. The ground shook as something heavy circled our camp, snapping branches and letting out low, rumbling growls. I clutched my flashlight, too scared to even breathe. After what felt like hours, it finally stopped. At dawn, we found huge footprints around our tent, some with clear toe marks. We packed up and hiked out, not stopping until we reached the ranger station. The ranger listened, but said it was probably a bear. I know better. Whatever was out there didn't want us there, and I've never gone back to Skookum Meadow. I'm Jim, a logger from Forks, Washington. In 1969, I was working a job deep in the Olympic Peninsula, cutting timber near the Hoh River. The forest out there is old, the kind of place where moss hangs like curtains, and honestly, you feel like you're being watched. We'd heard stories from the Quileute tribe about a creature they called the Wild Man, but I figured it was just talk to keep outsiders away. One evening, I stayed late to finish a cut, my crew already back at camp. The sun was setting, painting the sky blood red. I was chaining my saw when I heard a whistle, not a bird, but sharp and deliberate, like a signal. I froze, just scanning the trees. Nothing. Then it came again, closer from the ridge above. My skin prickled. I called out, thinking it was one of the guys messing with me, but no one answered. Then I saw it, silhouetted against the fading light. It was huge, maybe 9 feet tall, with long arms and a hunched posture. Its fur was black, blending with the shadows. It didn't move, just stood there watching me. I grabbed my saw, but the weight of it felt useless against something that size. A low moan, almost like a human cry, echoed through the valley. I backed away, tripping over roots, and ran for the truck. The whole way I felt it following, its footsteps heavy in the underbrush but never quite visible. I told my crew the next day, and they laughed, saying I'd had too much whiskey. But I saw the fear in their eyes. They'd heard the whistles too. We finished the job early and left. The Quileute elder I met later didn't laugh. He said the wild man protects the forest, and I'd been warned. I never worked that part of the peninsula again. I'm Sarah, a park ranger at Mount Rainier National Park in 1978. My job was to patrol the backcountry, checking trails and campsites. The mountain was beautiful, but eerie, especially at dusk when the fog rolled in. Locals talked about Sasquatch, and I'd seen plaster casts of huge footprints at the visitor center, but I didn't believe in monsters. Not until that August. I was on a solo patrol near Paradise, hiking a remote trail. The air was cool, the forest quiet except for the occasional bird. I was checking a campsite when I found a nest, sticks and branches woven together, bigger than anything a bear would make. Nearby were footprints, deep and wide, leading into the trees. My radio was useless out there, so I followed them, curiosity getting the better of me. The tracks led to a clearing, and that's when I felt it. Eyes on me, heavy and unblinking. I turned, and there it was, maybe 50 feet away, half hidden behind a pine. It was massive, covered in grayish-brown fur, its face almost human, but wrong, with deep-set eyes and a wide mouth. It let out a low, rumbling sound like a warning. I backed away, my hand on my knife, useless against something that size. The smell hit me, rancid, like spoiled meat. It took a step, and I ran, my boots slipping on pine needles. When I reached the ranger station, I reported it, but my supervisor said I'd seen a bear. I went back the next day with a colleague, but the nest was gone. The tracks smeared like they'd been wiped away. I still patrol Rainier, but I avoid that trail. Something's out there, and it knows those woods better than I ever will. I'm Mike, a fisherman from Hood River, Oregon. In 1965, I was camping along the Columbia River Gorge near Beacon Rock, hoping to catch some steelhead. The gorge was wild back then, with cliffs towering over the river and forests so thick you could get lost in minutes. I'd heard the Sasquatch tales, loggers claiming they'd seen a hairy giant, native stories about a creature that haunted the river. But I didn't put much stock in them. One night, I was by my campfire, the river rushing nearby, when I heard a splash, louder than any fish. I grabbed my flashlight and scanned the water. Nothing. Then came a howl, so deep and powerful it shook the ground. It wasn't a wolf or a cougar. It was something bigger, something wrong. I stood, my fishing knife in hand, as the howl came again, closer. The air turned sour, like rotting leaves and musk. I swung my flashlight toward the trees, and there it was. A figure, maybe 10 feet tall, standing on the riverbank. Its fur was dark, dripping wet, and its eyes glowed in the light. It didn't move, just stared, its chest heaving. I shouted, hoping to scare it, but it answered with another howl so loud my ears rang. I threw my knife, more out of panic than sense, and it vanished into the dark. I didn't sleep that night, keeping the fire high. At dawn, I found huge webbed footprints in the mud, leading into the river. I never fished that stretch again. The locals said I'd met the river giant, a creature that guards the gorge. I don't know what it was, but I'll never forget those eyes, watching me like I was the intruder. My name is Clara Thompson, and in the summer of 1976, I was a geology student working on a research project near Mount St. Helens, Washington. The volcano was quiet back then, just a snow-capped giant looming over the forest. But the locals in Cougar told stories that gave me chills. They spoke of a creature they called the Bat-Squatch, a winged beast, half man, half bat, that haunted the skies above the mountain. I thought it was just campfire talk, something to scare hikers. I was wrong. Our team was camped in a clearing near Spirit Lake, cataloging rock samples. The forest was dense, the air thick with pine and damp moss. One evening, I stayed late at the base of a lava flow, sketching formations by lantern light. The sun had dipped below the ridge, and the sky was turning purple when I heard it, a low, thrumming hum, like a distant engine but alive, pulsing. I looked up, expecting a plane, but the sky was empty except for a few stars. Then the trees shook, not a breeze but a violent rustling, like something massive was moving through the canopy. My lantern flickered, and the air grew heavy, carrying a stench like burnt hair and sulfur. I grabbed my notebook, ready to bolt, when I saw it, a shadow, massive and winged, gliding over the treetops. It was no bird. Its wings spanned at least 20 feet, leathery and bat-like, attached to a body that looked humanoid but wrong, with glowing blue eyes that pierced the dusk. It hovered for a moment, silent except for that thrumming, then dove toward the lake. I froze, my heart pounding so hard I thought it had burst. The creature landed on the shore, maybe 200 yards away, its silhouette hunched and hulking. It let out a screech, high-pitched, like metal on glass, that echoed off the mountain. I dropped to the ground, hiding behind a boulder, praying it hadn't seen me. The screech came again, closer, and I heard the flap of those wings, heavy and deliberate like a storm rolling in. I peeked over the boulder and saw it lift off, its eyes scanning the forest. For a moment, I swear it looked right at me, its gaze cold and predatory. I don't know how long I hid, But when the thrumming faded, I ran back to camp, my flashlight bouncing wildly. My team was already awake, their faces pale. They'd heard the screech, felt the ground shake. We found no tracks the next morning, but the air still stank, and our equipment, compasses, radios, was fritzing, needles spinning wildly. The locals we told nodded grimly, saying the bat squatch guards the mountain, appearing before disasters. 4 years later, when St. Helens erupted, I couldn't help but wonder if it knew something we didn't. I never returned to that lake. Those eyes still haunt my dreams, and I can't shake the feeling it's still out there, watching from the skies. I'm Henry Dawson, a mechanic from Kelowna, British Columbia. In August 1962, I was fishing on Okanagan Lake with my cousin Ed in a small wooden boat we'd borrowed from my uncle. The lake was vast, its waters dark and glassy, surrounded by orchards and steep hills. The Silks people had warned us about Naha'ik, a serpent-like creature they said lived in the lake's depths. White folks called it Ogopogo, a name from a music hall song, but the stories weren't so whimsical. I figured it was just a tale to keep kids from swimming too far. That day, I learned otherwise. We were near Rattlesnake Island, trolling for kokanee when the water changed. The surface, calm all morning, began to ripple like something massive was moving below. Ed laughed, saying it was probably a sturgeon, but I felt uneasy. The air grew cold and a faint fishy smell wafted up, not like the lake's usual scent, but rancid, like something long dead. I reeled in my line, scanning the water when the boat rocked hard, nearly tipping us over. Ed cursed, grabbing the oars, but there was no wind, no waves, just a sudden violent lurch. Then I saw it. About 50 feet away, the water bulged, and a shape broke the surface. A long, sinuous neck, dark green and slick, with a head like a snake's but broader, eyes glinting like oil slicks. It rose maybe 6 feet above the water, swaying before diving back down, leaving a wake that rocked our boat again. I shouted, pointing, but Ed was already rowing for shore, his face white. The water churned behind us, and I heard a low, rumbling sound, like a growl from the depths. We reached the shore, scrambling onto the rocks, but it wasn't over. As we caught our breath, the water near the island erupted, and I saw it again, longer this time, its body humping out of the lake, maybe 30 feet of coils, dark and glistening. It didn't chase us, just swam parallel to the shore, watching with those unblinking eyes. I fumbled for my camera, but my hands were shaking too much to focus. It dove again, and the lake went still, like nothing had happened. We told my uncle, who didn't laugh. He said his Silks neighbor had seen Naha'ik years ago, near the same island, and that it only showed itself to warn people away. We found no marks on the boat, no proof, except our story, but the locals believed us. They said the lake has its secrets and Naha'ik protects them. I still fish, but never on Okanagan Lake. Every ripple I see makes me think of those eyes waiting in the dark water. That's all for these chilling tales of Bigfoot and cryptid encounters in the Pacific Northwest. I hope they left you with a shiver and a sense of the mystery still hiding in these wild places. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these dramatized stories, please give this video a like and hit that subscribe button to support my channel. Your support helps me create more spine-tingling encounters to share with you. Until next time, stay curious and watch the shadows.